Welcome, everybody. This is Books Cafe presented by free-ebooks.net. I'm your host, Scott Patton, and I've got a very, very exciting guest to share with you. But before we do that, I have two little pieces of information I wanted to share with you. First of all, here is our website, free-ebooks.net. You can sign up for free, and you can get 5 free ebooks for free every month. And some of our featured ebooks here are really excellent and really want you to take a few minutes, head over and check it out. And be sure to go and like our page on Facebook. Right now we have a promotion. No, it's not a promotion. It's a giveaway for an Amazon Kindle. So head over, give us a like, and see if you can't win a Kindle Paperwhite. All right. Our guest today is a longtime friend of mine, and I'm so excited to have him here with us today because he's just a fountain of knowledge. If you want to know anything about publishing, writing a book, and you want to do it real fast, he is the person to talk to. He's a USA Today and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. He's a speaker, consultant, coach, lawyer, and a nurse. When he told me he was a nurse once, I was like, unbelievable. I never would have guessed. And host of the top-rated Real Fast Results podcast. He's also the creator of the popular Real Fast training programs designed to help authors, speakers, coaches, consultants, trainers, internet marketers, and entrepreneurs effectively grow their businesses faster and profit more effortlessly. And he just told me that he's launched his own channel on Roku and Amazon Fire called Book Lovers. So with that, welcome to the show, Daniel Hall. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Scott. It's an honor and a privilege to get to be here and chat with your community.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about your book, The Best Authors Book.
The best-selling author?
The best-selling author, yes.
Okay, that's I'd love to talk about that book. It's one of my favorite subjects. And basically the nutshell of the book is that if you are a author, particularly if you are a author that is not selling very well, the thing that you need to do is build a platform of raving fans of you and what you do. Now that's a heck of a lot easier said than done.
Yes.
And what this book represents is a step-by-step process of things that you can do to start building your author's platform. Because in the final analysis, if you want to be a successful, and when I say successful, I mean financially successful author, you need a platform, people that love you and want your work. And that's what this book is all about. And that's what we help authors essentially do.
So can you give me an example of a platform? Because when you say platform, my background, of course, is I was 20 years, I managed grocery stores. And at the back, we would have a truck come in and it would put a thing over and it would go on the platform. And then we would pull all the groceries out before we put them on. So, and then the other thing, of course, is when you're speaking, you're standing on a platform because you're above people. So, but right. When you're talking about platforms, I'm pretty sure you're not talking about grocery stores. So,
all right. So when I say platform, and this is a great question, thank you so much for asking it. The thing that you need is a group of fans, an audience that loves you. So that the vernacular in the publishing industry is a platform. That's called an author's platform. And when I think of an author's platform, and what I define in the best-selling author book is it's not just the fact that you have a group of people that you can reach out to, but it's also the fact that you develop a relationship with them over time. And your job as an author is to nurture that relationship and grow that relationship. And a part of the way that you do that is by making a real, palpable difference in the lives of your readers. And the more that you could do that, both as a fiction and nonfiction writer, the larger your platform will grow, the more rabid your fans will be, and the more that they will clamor for your next work. And that's really what it's all about. That's if you want to build true wealth as a author or a content provider, this is the only path that I know of.
Wow, cool. So basically, you're talking about what some people would call a tribe or a community or an audience. And
All synonymous words, yes.
Right. Oh, cool. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's talk a little bit. Let's back up just a little bit and talk about, we've got a lot of authors that tune in. We've got a lot of readers that tune in as well. But for this is me aimed more at the authors. How do we decide, what we write about? Like when someone just starts and says, you know what, I want to be an author. Is that actually not where they start? They start with, I have this message I want to get out or knowledge that I want to share. And then I'm going to use a book as my way of getting that information out.
Well, as they say, there's lots of ways to peel the potato. And the thing that you must look at is intent. What do you intend to do with the book? And let's say most people think, oh, I'm going to write a book and it's going to sell and I'm going to make lots of money from the book. Great. Right. If that is the intent, in other words, then whatever you're writing about, you better be doggone sure that people want to buy that kind of content. You got, in other words, don't just haul off, think you have a great idea, haul off and spend, months or years writing a book and to figure out no one wants it. No one wants to read it. So you have to, start from that position from sort of from the get-go if you want to create or write and publish a wildly popular book. On the other hand, if your intent is, let's say you are, a stock investing trainer, for example.
Okay.
And you sell coaching packages, well, just any kind of high ticket package that you sell on the back end. Then the profit of the book is not necessarily in the number of sales of the book, but you use the book essentially as a super business card that filters in new people that hear your message, understand that you know what you're talking about, and you get them clamoring to seek you out. Because when they do that, you see, when they have read your book and they are truly convinced that they are going to get help from you, when they pick up the phone, when they email you, they are red hot prospects. They are ready to buy. Okay. And the cool thing about that is that if you get enough books out in the world like that, and you have a large back end offer, some sort of a high ticket back end offer, then you don't need to sell that many books in order to make it wildly profitable. Okay. So there's that approach as well. It depends on intent.
So really you have to start with the end in mind.
Always.
Right. Because like you were saying, if I'm a fiction writer, well, first of all, do you know anybody who's moderately successful as an author that only has one book?
Very few people have just one book, unless one. I do in the latter example that I just gave. If you have some sort of high ticket offer, and you're, that is what you're known for, and that book brings in brand new prospects. Yes, in that situation, I do. Right. But generally speaking, you should have more than one book. And the fact of the matter is that once you sort of get your first book out there, it actually becomes a lifelong journey of getting new messages out and also refining your message over time in new books and new developments in your field.
Right. Well, I love science fiction, and growing up, I read, the Foundation trilogy and everything else, and it was just occurred to me, like, all the authors that I read as a teenager, they had many short stories, they had novels, they had series that went on and on and on, they never stopped. And the foundation one was an interesting one because he was like he was done, and when he was done was a time when you didn't make very much money writing books, I guess. And then it was like 10 or 20 years later, all of a sudden he came out with 3 or 4 or 5, I forget how many more books on the base, same foundation, world that he had created. And I was like, wow, how did that happen? So when, like, I understand totally what you're talking about. When you're writing your book, you've got well, first of all, you have the end in mind, right? Is it your a business card that you're using to get leads, or are you writing, say, nonfiction, and this is the first of, maybe Sarnia, like 10 books on the
Right.
on that, or the Lion, the Wolf, and the Wardrobe, or C.S. Lewis, whatever,
Right.
his series of books, right? I don't know any of the new authors, right? Like I want to go back and read my old favorite books. I'm not really interested in a new one, but
And I have something to say about that as well. As a matter of fact, that's the very, very first, pretty much the very first chapter of this, that if you are serious about becoming very successful in building your platform, then you need to understand the marketplace today. And that means getting and reading, I wouldn't say competitor books, but complementary books in your genre, so you can understand what's resonating with your core demographic, with the group of people that you want to reach now, because it changes. You cannot just assume, that it's going to stay the same, because it doesn't. Like, that's the one thing in publishing. That's one of the things that really attracts me to it, is that it's a constantly evolving thing. It is definitely not static. So it is really important, if you are an author that's serious about building your platform, that you are in fact getting new books, reading your contemporaries, and that's another huge paradigm shift, I think, especially for a lot of new authors, is if a lot of authors, like in the entrepreneurial world, we see other businesses as competitors, and sometimes authors tend to have that same approach to other authors, and that is just not right. You should see other authors as a part of your community, and the reason is this: that if you buy my book here on the best-selling author, you're interested in building your platform and making lots of money with your books, chances are very, very good that this is not the only book that you're going to buy on the subject. If you're really, really serious about it, you're going to buy a bunch of books on the subject. And that's one of the reasons why, people, for example, if they like Anne Rice, they're going to like Jeffrey Deaver. They, in other words, if you like one kind of genre, or if you like Robert Heinlein, maybe you're going to really love Orson Scott Card. We buy many books in the genre or the category that we like. So that's another reason why you need to kind of stay current with what's really selling, and kind of have your ear to the ground on that, so that your next project is informed by what is currently selling and what you see kind of looking out on the horizon.
No man is an island, right?
That is so true. And the other thing too, I'll tell you, the really, it's like our relationship, Scott. We are constantly trying to help one another, because we're doing complementary things, and you could definitely develop and nurture, and you should develop and nurture these kinds of relationships with other authors in your niche, because they already have an audience. Many of them, and many of the successful, they all have audiences if they are successful, and your job is to essentially become a part of their audience, and then bring other people into your new audience, because some of them will. And if you're being supportive of that other author, you're sharing their post, you're buying their products, you're reviewing their books, whatever it is you can do to support them, it is so much easier for them to then turn around and then support you when the time comes, when you need it. So super important.
It really is. And I was just thinking when you were talking about how we're not stealing their audience, right? Because it's like a bunch of in my mind, I'm thinking of a bunch of baby birds in a nest that are constantly wanting to be fed, right? And the birds are coming and they keep putting the worms down. But all our readers are desperate for more good books. And if they like a certain author and you're in the same genre, then they may like your books if you've written excellent books. And it just makes everything bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's right.
And the other part of what you were talking about that I think is really interesting is we have ways to connect with authors that we never had, 15 years ago in terms of Facebook groups or Twitter or all those things.
Live streaming.
Live streaming. And what I didn't know was J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and I don't know who else, but there was like 2 or 3 other very well-known authors hung out together, and they would talk about the books that they were writing and get feedback from these other authors.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I just thought, like, wow, like what a great mastermind that must have been, right? What they would have been talking about, and it just blew my mind. So as a new like if you're a new author and if you're an established author, like look for authors to build a group with that can support each other in the creation of more and more books.
That's right, and in other business ventures as well. I like to think about it's like you're a member of my posse, Scott. I'm a member of your posse, Scott. Right? And you develop these relationships with a lot of other people, and you support one another over time, and you all benefit. This goes back to the book Think and Grow Rich, when we talk about when Napoleon Hill talks about the power of masterminds. You just described that. You and I have masterminded together, and that it is very, very crucial that you understand that when you're working with other authors, that's the approach to them. Hey, how could I help you? Oh, I have an idea for you. Maybe you can make this tweak, or I could support you in this way, right? Or that way. And basically you make the pie bigger, because if I, in my activities, I'm going to attract a certain type of reader independent of you. But over time, as we do other things together, this new group of people that you've never heard of, and they don't know you, now get introduced to you, right? And some of those people become a member of your audience, right? And vice versa. We did this with our Udemy course, for example, right?
Yes.
New people came in through that would have never otherwise known of me, and vice versa.
That's right. That's right, because you're active in it too. You turned one of my thoughts 180 degrees, because you said, like, I have an idea for you in your book, right? And what I was thinking when you said that was, what if he steals my idea and puts it in his book and publishes his book first, right? So there's that whole, you have to have that abundance mentality and the sharing mentality, as opposed to the holding everything so tight because, I have this single idea that I'll probably never have another idea and he's going to steal my idea.
I mean, ideas are a dime a dozen.
They really are.
There's always lots of ideas. It's the execution of the ideas. It's the implementation of the ideas. And honestly, what about one in a dozen actually work? So, have at it, man.
Have at it, right? One of the things that I love about being live is we have an audience, and I want to encourage everybody. Let me just do this, because I should have done it at the beginning. If you have any questions for Daniel, this is your great chance to ask them. And also, like, share, subscribe, let your friends know if you like what you're seeing. And we have a comment from Richard, which I just want to share. He says, I like reading different types of books, sci-fi, horror, Western, action, and more. if I'm reading a long series of one author, I will stop to read another book from another author, then go back to the series that I'm reading, which is, I think I know that's exactly what I do, Richard. I read a wide variety. I don't read as much sci-fi and action or Westerns as I used to. I did read horror before, but I just actually kind of stay away from horror now. It's too scary. I need to sleep.
We're living it. Why read it, right?
We're living it. That's right. Why read it? So thank you very much, Richard, for sharing that. And if you've got any questions, I'm monitoring the comments, and I'll bring them up. And if you want to share a comment about what we're talking about, feel free to do that as well. So you're the real fast guy. I love the way that you've branded it. I love that, real fast podcast, real fast Kindle books, real fast everything. What can you give us 3 tips? I don't know why I said 3. I was going to say 2, but you're stuck with 3 now. 3
Okay.
tips on real fast book writing. Doesn't matter if and let's say it's a fiction book, okay? Because I tend to delve and read a lot of nonfiction, and I think that reading fiction is really good. I think reading fiction is really good for businesses, business people, because we need to get into the emotion and the feelings of the characters. And that's because those characters are representing potential customers, and how do you deal with it? And I think oftentimes we don't have enough empathy. We don't understand them, all the rest of it. And then sometimes just the stories take us away from, I've read a lot of his books.
Master. A master.
Yeah. So real fast fiction writing, and let's just say they're horror. I'm a horror writer. I'm a horror story writer. I want to write them real fast. What are 3 things that I should be thinking about that I probably don't?
All right, so let's start. Is this their first book? If this is their first book, I have a.
Let's say it's their first book.
Okay, they're just dipping a toe here.
Daniel, I love horror movies. I love horror books. I've got all these stories banging around in my head. I want to write a series of horror books, but I've never put pen to paper.
Okay, so this is pretty straightforward, actually. The first thing is,
I thought I was making it hard on you, because we haven't talked about any of this stuff.
but that's okay. Here's the thing: if you are brand new to this world and you really want to dip a toe and are serious about it, the very first thing I would say is choose one of your shorter stories and write that. And that could be 1,500 words. It could be 10,000 words. It doesn't have to be a long, because you could actually publish a 1-page book on Kindle. Okay,
wow.
A 1-page short story on Kindle, make it a short read. You're cool. And that's really what I would say first, because what you need to do is first build confidence, show yourself that you can do it. And a big part of that is making your project bite size, chunk it down to something very small, easily attainable, so that you could actually get that first book out and grow your confidence. Learn the trade, learn to actually put pen to paper, start and finish something and relish, reward yourself for that win. Then the next time you go on to, a little bit larger, a little bit, bigger project. And I would say that would be the first big one. Second big thing is going back to what I said earlier. Do you really want to sell this kind of, do you want to sell what you put up there? Well, then you should probably first figure out what is selling now, right? And you write in that same genre. For example, maybe it's steamy werewolf romance, which by the way is a genre, right? And you're like, hey, do books sell in that genre? Hint, hint, they do. Okay, like wildfire, and so figure that out. Too, because you need to, again, if you're going to be successful, figure out what the market wants and then give it to them. I mean, it's pretty it's pretty simple. And then the third big thing is, don't just think that publishing, hitting the publish button on Kindle concludes your job, because that just actually starts your job, because now you need to get, comfortable with actually marketing, coming out and doing things like this, and really, reaching out to potential readers that have already indicated that they like this kind of story, this kind of book. So those are the three that kind of come off the top of my head.
Excellent job, Daniel. And one of the beauties of having you on is I know you know your stuff, and we have enough of a history and a relationship that we're comfortable with each other, so that I can just throw whatever I want at you and you just like knock it out of the park. And that for me is the fun part of doing what I'm doing, right? Is that I know that I can ask you a question, and I'm not asking you to stump you, but I know that it'll never stump you. And that's just
be a couple things, but I'm really good at making stuff up. So
exactly, right. And Richard said Anne Rice is another author I really enjoy reading.
Oh my gosh, yes, me too. I love all the vampire stuff and the Stotts, and I love all that.
It's very cool. All right, so tell us a little bit about some things that are going on in your world that that you'd like to share. It doesn't actually have to be about authorship, but just if you've got a new grandson or something like that coming along. I have one. It's great.
Congrats.
Thank you. 8 or 9 months now. It'll be 9 months and 4 days. 5 days. He missed my birthday by 5 hours, Daniel.
Oh my.
I was so upset. Not, but she was afraid that it was going to be
technically
like
Scott. Here, let me fix that for you.
Okay.
If it's in the same 24-hour window around your birthday, it is your birthday.
Really?
Think about it.
Ah.
If it's within 24 hours of your birthday, it's the same day. It's just a slightly different 24 hours.
Right. Oh yes. That was 21 hours after my birth.
There you go. It works.
Yes, it works. Yeah. So what's happening in your world, whether it's business, whether it's work, or whether it's personal, like that, what's going on that you'd love to share?
One of the other kind of fun things that we're doing is we launched a number of channels on Roku and on Amazon Fire TV, called Book Lovers TV. So if you like, to hear from brand new voices in a variety of genres, you could definitely check that out. It is a free channel, and you just search. If you have a Roku, you can search Book Lovers TV there, or you can go to Amazon, search Book Lovers TV. On Amazon, and we're having a lot of fun and really trying to feature brand new voices, very talented people. That's one of the things that's really been beautiful about this whole marketplace now, because in the old days you had lots and lots of gatekeepers. Today we can get a book to market. And essentially go toe to toe with the big publishing houses, which by the way are faltering these days. And we could be right up there selling just as well as a major published author, a marquee sort of author. And the really cool thing is people vote with their dollars. And if you're on the same marquee with some other big author, great. You can do that, and that's very exciting. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do with Book Lovers TV is discover brand new voices, and help spread their message. And we're doing that in a very, I think, effective way.
Awesome. That's amazing. That actually is one of the reasons why we started free-ebooks.net. was we realized there was a lot of people out there that were excellent authors, but they had no way of creating a community. So the idea is you put one of your books up for free in the site, and then we've got 2.5 million members. Some of those people will like, if it's a horror book, they'll come and they'll like it, and then they're going to want to know where you are. There's a profile page where you can say, well, here are my other books on Amazon and everything else, so that you can create a following and, be able to go somewhere and say, hey, what we were thinking is if you wanted to go to one of the major publishers, you could say, hey, there's been 10,000 downloads of my horror book on free-ebooks.net. So I've got a community, and maybe you should take a look at some of my other books and move forward. So that's awesome.
Yeah, man, that's I'm so pleased to hear that you're doing that for authors, because if you are, first off, I love authors. I adore working with authors. I gave up practicing law to do this, and I really know that with our stories and with our messages and with our content, we can build a better world. And if I could help just one author do that, in a single week, I know that not only am I helping that author, but I am helping all the people that author is helping by helping them. So that, I like to make money. I have no compunctions about that. But what really floats my boat, what really gets me going and keeps me going every day is that thought that, hey, if I'm helping other authors, I'm helping everyone that they're helping, and that's profoundly it gives me lots of satisfaction.
Yeah, I can feel your passion. And Richard gave us another comment. He said the website, free-ebooks.net, you posted, does have different authors in the genres people may want to check out to increase the authors that they like. Absolutely, Richard. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. So we've come to pretty much the end of our time. Daniel, I want to thank you so much for coming on and connecting with me. And I really appreciate everything that you have brought to your community in the Real Fast world. And also, I really want to tell you, I really appreciate everything that you've brought into my life, because you have had a really positive effect on me, and I really enjoyed our friendship and the growth that we co-create as we
Indeed. Yeah, and you inspire me as well, Scott. I want to say that as well, because there are lots of folks in this space, but you've always approached everything that you've done you always bring your A game, and I really appreciate that about you, and I know that your heart is always in the right place, and that's one of the reasons why if Scott asked me to do something, it's just an instant yes, of course I will do it. So I just wanted to reflect that back at you. I know we have a little mutual admiration society going on here, but it is the truth. So kudos to you on, just living your passion and really helping people as you've done it.
Thank you. So it's a 3-person mutual admiration society, because Richard says, thank you for the responses to my questions and comments. Our pleasure, Richard. Thank you for being here.
One last thing I will just say is, and you have it up here now, if you are an author or aspire to be an author, or you're a content creator, or you're a publisher or a course creator, trainer, or coach, then you may want to check out the realfastresults.com podcast, because we have done a lot of episodes helping folks just like you to sell more books, to create more royalty income and passive income through your intellectual property. And there's a way to actually get all of the PDFs. I have summaries for every single episode. If you go to realfastresults.com, not only can you hear the podcast, but if you want, you can subscribe to the list and get all, I think, 150, 140, whatever, nice. PDFs for every episode. So go check that out, realfastresults.com.
Cool. And I was going to sign off, but I have a couple minutes before my next show. Thursdays is crazy for me, but you reminded me of a question that I wanted to ask you because I've always been curious about that. So you do a podcast, and then you take the podcast, you get a transcription done, and then you make a Kindle book out of the podcast. Yes, so my two questions are, one is, do you edit the transcriptions, or is it always like Scott said this and then Daniel said that?
Oh, great question. Yeah. So what I do is I put a team together, and really it's not a transcription. It is more of a summary. So what my writer does is she listens to the podcast episode, and then she writes a summary based on the conversation. So it's not a narrative Q&A. It's more of a summary. You know, Scott said this, da 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 da. Daniel said this, da 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 da. And it reads. I think it's a much easier read. In that way, and that's the way that I do it. And by the way, so there's yet another reason to go to realfastresults.com, because I do sell those books daily. On Kindle. And you can get them all free at realfastresults.com by going and subscribing there.
Cool. And then maybe in a half-hour podcast interview with somebody, how many pages would the book be?
Depends on how many words they get out. And I never worry about that. I never worry about the length of a book. I'm always keenly aware and focused on the quality of the content. And I used to get that question all the time. Well, how long should my book be? Right. Don't care. If it's quality, it could be one page.
Right.
And that's, listen, here's the thing. When I help people title their works, I always will say, look, implicit in every great title is some sort of promise. Some sort of promise implicit in every great title, especially if it's a nonfiction work, but even if it's a fiction work. So your job as the author is to exceed the expectation inherent in that promise that you've made in the title of your book. And if you do that in one page is enough. If it takes, 100 pages, then 100 pages is enough. But you want to always, always, always over-deliver. That's one of the other things that builds an audience, that keeps them coming back for more, being a blessing in their life. That's what it's all about.
That's beautiful, and that's a great place to end. Thank you, Daniel. Really appreciate you. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Glad to have you on board. Every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll be here. And, of course, the replay will also be available on YouTube and our Facebook page. This is Scott Patton for free-ebooks.net, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.